Well, thank you so much for carving out some time in your day to join this segment so that you know what segment you are chimed into. Today is Fit for Winning. We're going to talk about some effective fitness strategies that are going to help you for all around peak performance. So, little side note, I learned a little bit ago that this is a 30-minute segment. I'm going to do as great as I can to try to get through. I want to be mindful and respectful for everyone's time. And yet, if you have any questions or want some follow-up conversation, I'm happy to help with the content I'll be sharing today. Just a little introduction, a little about me. My name is Candice Terrazas. I am a MAPS life coach. And my husband and I have been real estate for almost 20 years. It'll be 20 years in January. My husband's been licensed since 2005 and been with KW since 2008. I'm a mom to two kids. I have a 12-year-old son and 8-year-old daughter, and just have had a lifelong passion around fitness and understanding nutrition and how it plays a different role from person to person. And it's varied in different stages in my life. Both my children and my husband have ADHD. And so even navigating nutrition, and understanding what food is fueling and what food is distracting. We stay away from verbiage like good food or bad food. I'm also a competitive bodybuilder. And so I've come to understand the benefit that muscle mass has played on my health. So, as we know, agents navigating through shifting markets, all while juggling other life priorities. It's just not uncommon for priorities to shift, for health habits to take a back seat. At least in my experience, shifts in business and in life frequently have come with changes and challenges in my health choices. And so, whether it was a challenging time in the market or in our business or navigating post-pregnancy, and now as a 43-year-old mom with potential hormonal, not potential, it is like a 100% certainty that there will be hormonal shifts in my near future. But I have found that it's correlated with my mental state, where my health habits are at, and my mental state are correlated to my health habits that I have in place. And so I'm excited to be able to get to share with you some things that have worked for me and the people that I get to partner with and coach. You'll hear me say this more than once, but my hope is that there is a focus on who it is that you want to become as opposed to what it is that you need to do for these habits to last, for them to stay. And so by the end of this session, my hope is that you will leave with some actionable steps that are going to empower you in your fitness journey and in your mindset, because that's where it counts. We're going to talk about identifying winning habits. We're going to gain clarity on who it is that you're meant to be at the core of your mental state. We're going to navigate what exercise is right for you, fuel for peak performance, and what a proper reset can do for your mindset and your body. Now, I have to share this disclaimer. I am not a health practitioner, and anything that I share with you here is for educational and entertainment purposes. If there's any advice that you want to consult with your doctor, that is the best thing that you can do. I'm going to talk about some things and protocols that have helped me and people that I've partnered with, and yet we still want you to consult with your health practitioner if there's anything that you're going to implement in your health journey. So while I could easily write up health plans, and I do, and workouts for you to implement, the one thing that yields quickest results and what I've learned is that the health habits are more likely to last when your focus shifts from what it is that you need to do to who it is you want to become. And so asking yourself, who do I need to be to have the mindset that's going to elevate peak performance? Now, if I were to reframe that in a way that felt more meaningful, it's who do I need to make the number one priority in life? Now, if you're on the Zoom today and you've been encountering maybe just a lack of focus or your energy has been low, maybe you feel like you've lost some of that creativity that you had. This is an excellent opportunity to just reflect on how it is that you want to show up. You see, the people that you are called to impact and serve need the best version of you. And this is when I would challenge you to ask yourself, are the people you're called to serve getting the most powerful, happy, faithful, strong version of you? And we all have a path to empowerment to elevate how we show up at the highest level. And it's going to look unique to each of us. If we take a look at the habits outside of your business that could indirectly fuel your business, they would be these 5 core things. And you can write them down so you can take some reflection a little bit later today and see where you're at. Exercise, nutrition, sleep, your hobbies, and prayer and meditation as one. In other words, if we properly assessed these 5 areas, where we're at in these core areas, we would see how they're connected to our health and our mindset. All right, so this is a fitness call, so I definitely have to touch on what it looks like to move your body, exercise that feels in alignment. And I think before even going into talking about the basics of that, I want to help you understand the impact that exercise has on even our cognitive health, because this is a call about how fitness is going to impact and how we show up in our business, how we show up in our life. So we wouldn't skip a beat if we truly understood how exercise plays a role in our cognitive health. I'm going to share a few studies with you. There's a study that has proven that exercise contributes to the creation and maintenance of brain cells in our part of the brain that controls learning and the function of our memory. How many of you know that when you're bogged down with a ton of stuff, you feel like foggy, you can't think clear, and sometimes something as simple as having an exercise regime, a routine that would help you stay sharp would be something that could be beneficial in our business. The other thing, our nervous system shifts when we move. I'm going to ask you to do a little something with me. Wherever you're at, I want you to straighten out your back and I want you to roll your shoulders back. And then just do a breathe in with me and exhale with your mouth. How many feel different than you did before I asked you to do that? Some people might feel just a little more energy. Maybe your heart's, not beating as quick if you were encountering some anxiety. And this is just to show you that any shift in our body and our nervous system in our movement can have an impact in our nervous system. For some people, it's that rolling their shoulders back can even impact their confidence. They feel a little bit more prepared to go into a difficult conversation. And so not minimizing the power that movement has on your cognitive and your state of being. The other thing is that muscle brain connection is incredibly fascinating. As a bodybuilder, even when I'm going to train, the division I compete in is lower body. And so sometimes some of the muscles don't fire as easily, and it's got to get that mind and muscle connection because of the power the brain has to the muscles. And this is all empowering when we think about the brain is not only in control of how we think, our muscles development, but it's also burning fat. All of this takes place in our brain. And, as an athlete, I had no idea before I became a bodybuilder, the power and the gift that would be and how I showed up in other areas of my life, the ability to be more resilient and also more present in my conversations. These health habits that you start to implement absolutely have an impact on the resilience that you need to endure and to be successful in any business. Also the influence that it has on your endorphins to help reduce the symptoms of anxiety. I know my son who has, who deals with some anxiety, sometimes we'll just send him outside to go jump in the pool and do a few laps or go run outside. And just that little movement alone, he comes inside and he's a totally different person, feels more joyful, isn't as anxious. And so that movement can and does impact the cognitive function, around the anxiety. Another study shows that employees that exercise regularly are 15% more efficient than those who don't. So what would take somebody on average of 52 hours a week to work that does not exercise, somebody who exercises would complete that in 42 and a half hours. There's a Harvard study that shares that strength training has been found to develop and strengthen the ability to overcome obstacles and improve mental resilience. Now, this is the key word to be successful in this profession, correct? Resilient. It helps you accomplish your goals and transform your life. Now, let's talk about the types of physical activity because it's going to look different for all of us. Now, I want to share with you more from the fact aspect. Studies show that adults do need a mix of physical activity to stay healthy. So it isn't necessarily checking a box of just that one thing because movement is going to look different for all of us. But if you choose to do something that's like moderate intensity aerobic activity, this is going to be anything that just gets your heart beating faster. This could be cycling, this can be walking a pet, this can be dancing. This is moderate intensity aerobic activity, and that's something that's encouraged at least 5 days a week. Now, if you prefer vigorous intensity aerobic activity, this would be like running. We're encouraging that for at least, or the studies are proving that it's most beneficial if you aim for at least 75 minutes a week. Now, muscle strengthening activity, I'm obviously biased, and this is something I'm passionate about, helping people find a new love for muscle building activities. This is anything that activities that make your muscles work harder than usual, and you want to do this at least 2 days a week. Now, you can do strength training with weights or strength training with your body weight. If the thought of stepping into a gym with a ton of weights doesn't sound exciting or sounds intimidating, start with your body weight. The reality is that now they're coming out with studies that are proving that the more muscle mass you have is also connected to the longevity of life. It's also, again, connected to bone protection and bone, prevention of bone loss. So there's a lot of benefits of being intentional with not only maintaining the muscle that you have, but also adding on muscle. Now, the intention of this slide is to bring awareness of the importance of being in tune with the relationship towards your relationship towards food and nutrition. So when I talk about mindful eating, I'm not going to go into specifics about about a specific plan or a diet. For many, specific diets can actually do more harm than good. I've partnered and worked with many women who want to find a diet that can continue to feed an unhealthy relationship that they had with food. And this is not a one size fits all. For some people, intermittent fasting might be an excellent source for health and longevity. And for somebody who has, I'm going to give you an example, a history of anorexia, that would not be the right protocol for them. I grew up in an era of where the Atkins diet was like the go-to, carbs are bad. And so it took some time for me to really prune that negative relationship I had towards food to now having a more wholesome approach. So when keto came around, it was enticing to me because I was already in the mindset that carbs were bad. And for me, that was not the route that would have given me a healthy perspective towards a wholesome nutritional way to feed my body. And so for this, instead of focusing on what you eat and when to eat, ask yourself, why do you choose that food and how does it make you feel? You see, for me now that carbs are essential for muscle growth, I feel great, but I talk to some people and I have some people that I coach that when they have carbs, they feel bloated. And so we have to find the right carbs and just having a good understanding of the relationship we have with the food that we put in so we understand how it makes us feel. If you have a piece of cake and you feel great, you have your piece of cake. But if there is some guilt that is coming with that, that is where the inner work needs to happen so that you can have a freedom in your diet and nutrition. So here are some steps, and these will actually help you as we come across the holidays and we're around a lot of family and friend gatherings and lots of food and lots of drinking. Here are some things that are going to help navigate as you are stepping into 2020, a healthier version you in 2025. Prioritizing protein prior to cravings. Now, this is something that I will stand by till I die. I'm even, a hard parent when it comes to this. My kids will go into the pantry and want to go through almost everything. And then I will always tell them, you wait until you put protein in your body and then you can go get that snack because it'll always eliminate you from overeating the wrong thing. Even if I'm going to go out to eat and I don't know what the menu is, or it's a restaurant that is, I know there aren't very many healthy options. Outside of me being on prep and like when I'm close to a show, I still want to, that's the only time I won't step into restaurants, but any other time I want to be able to continue to socialize without compromising taking care of my body. So having a protein shake, at most, you're looking at 120 calories. It's going to have about 25 to 35 grams of protein. So no matter where you go and what you order, you won't overeat because you've already been satiated with some sufficient protein. When I go to friends gatherings, again, I might have a small meal before I go, or I might prioritize just a protein shake so that I can nibble on whatever I want to eat without overeating. The other thing is a mood food journal. This is to document how you feel when you eat it, how hungry you are, and how you feel after. If you've had an unhealthy relationship in the past with dieting, this is almost critical for you to overcome those negative connections you've had towards food, especially, and I see this mostly with women when we are emotional eaters. If you're under high level stress, a lot of times people say it's the late night cravings. That's when it's like, oh, I do great all day. And then at night, it's like, I want to, eat everything. This is a good time to really document what it is that you're going through. And I'm going to talk in a bit about some of the hormones that are needing it. When when we have hormonal shifts, sometimes there's some other ways to satisfy that hormonal shift that your body is craving. Shifting from good food versus bad food. Now, this is really big. A lot of times we want to label foods as bad. And of course, we know that there are some foods that feed your body that have nutrition and some that have zero nutrition in it. It's just a healthier perspective to look at it instead, because when we look at food as bad, that's when the guilt and the shame wants to come on us when we have a bite or have a slice. And there really shouldn't be, there should be freedom in what we put into our bodies and not bondage. Is hunger physical or is it emotional? Taking that self-assessment. And we know that if you change your thought patterns, you get to change your beliefs. All right, somebody's reading this, looking at like, who invited this party Cooper to lead this call? We're going to talk about alcohol. Now, I know nobody on this call probably doesn't fall into this category, but the elephant in the room is that realtors are known for loving our happy hours. And so with the holidays around, we're going to be around a lot of social events. I thought it would be beneficial to discuss this so you can plan accordingly. And of course, there's no judgment on what you deem as an appropriate number of drinks. I just couldn't leave this topic without shedding some light on how it could prevent some of you from reaching your goals. So, how does alcohol impact your health goals? Well, alcohol actually brings your blood sugar down, which can then make us crave ultra processed, refined, non-satiating food. Think about Taco Bell at 1 a.m. When else is Taco Bell good, right? Like, it isn't. 1 a.m., this is your blood sugars are down, you're having those cravings. And because alcohol has calories, of course, it's going to contribute to a hypercaloric state. For the ABCs of nutrition, if you are in calorie surplus, you're going to gain weight. If you're in calorie deficit, that's when you see people that have more their abs and more muscles, they're on calories that are below their maintenance level. So alcohol is going to have those hidden calories, even when people think like, oh, it's just vodka soda or it's something low calorie or a glass of wine, but all those, 100, 150, if you're drinking that calories per glass is adding on to your overall consumption. And so it impacts you directly because it does contain a lot of calories, which it's usually a lot. And it's impacting you indirectly by driving you to eat more because you're in that blood sugar low. You're going to have those cravings to want to eat more. And then of course it reduces sleep quality. One thing that I didn't prioritize prior to bodybuilding was getting minimum 8 hours of sleep. Your sleep is also going to impact your hormone levels, which if you get the 3 o'clock, I'm craving something bad, vending machine kind of food, that is typically a sign of hormonal imbalance. Alcohol can increase storage of visceral and abdominal fat in a hypercaloric state. So this is bad for overall metabolic health and potential cardiovascular disease. If that runs in your family, you just want to be highly aware of that. And alcohol can hijack various food reward pathways in the brain and dysregulate appetite. So enough of that. You guys know, right? All right. Thoughts lead to feelings, feelings lead to actions, and actions lead to habits. Now, how many of you heard the philosophical statement, as I think, so I am? This is why mindset is probably the most important aspect of your fitness journey. If you do not pay attention to your thoughts around food, around fitness, around your overall health, you won't be able to grasp that overall lasting change. So gaining a healthy perspective towards where are my thoughts around how I treat my body, about how the habits I want to have in place. Your self-talk is very powerful. Where do we have an opportunity to remove guilt and shame around our health habits? And so this kind of just goes into the patterns that can eventually lead to emotional eating or lead to the patterns that we end up putting our health on the backseat because we're too busy in our business. Now, this is a slide where I was talking about earlier in this conversation around the hormones. So if you are wanting to assess what is it that's missing and what is my replacement, so we call it your happy chemicals, your serotonin, dopamine, oxytocin, endorphins. These are your happy chemicals. And oftentimes when people have unhealthy relationships with food, they're having food cravings, it is frequently connected to an imbalance in these hormones. The happy hormone is the serotonin. And you can get get a serotonin hit by meditation, morning sun, walks in nature, listening to music, Giving yourself permission to have a session of creativity. When was the last time you got to just be creative for fun because you wanted to? Oxytocin, we call this the love drug. You get your oxytocin spikes by hugging. Make sure to have in some extra cuddle sessions plugged into your Christmas vacation. Kissing, massages, love, animals, glass of wine. God had to snuck in there, but I mean, hey, dopamine, this is the pleasure chemicals. This is can be fulfilled by self-care, finishing tasks, celebrating your wins. So many of us, you have a closing, you move on to the next thing, and so really sit back and celebrating your wins. It's actually for your happy chemicals, for the dopamine hit. Your sleep, prioritizing that, and eating good food. Endorphin spikes, this is for your stress and your pain reliever hormone. Laughing and comedy, exercise and dancing, hugging, chocolate, and spicy food. All right, for this slide, I wanted to kind of go into some of the things. Again, these are all, anything that I bring up in this conversation definitely needs to be ran by your doctor, but I would also encourage you to assess what supplements are you implementing into your protocol that are impacting these core areas. Supplements for your muscle. I do things like creatine. I make sure that that is something, and it's also beyond that. A lot of times people think of creatine as like a bodybuilder thing, and it's actually, even if you've never worked out a day in your life, there is benefits to creatine. It helps your bone protection. It helps your brain. Things for your immune system. There's, a lot of different things for your immune system. I know, like aged garlic, liposomal vitamin C's, your brain health. This is going to be your fish oils, high quality fish oils. They usually want the ratios like to like. So when you see the EPAs, DHAs, you want them more like to like. The other thing for memory and brain health, and this is something my kids and my husband and I do, is L-theanine. This is going to help with more mental focus. There's a lot of benefits to that, and just overall making sure that you're going through and seeing what am I doing either in my diet or in my supplements that is targeting one of these core areas. So as we wrap up, it's important to create and sustain momentum, and that we do that when you take care of you first, right? Like when we create momentum in our businesses and in our lives, we want to be able to sustain it at a level that seems manageable so that we don't hit burnout and we don't take a step back and get to a place where, how do I get that energy back again? And we do that when you do take care of you first. And it's just a reminder that we are here to make an impact. You've been called to do what you do because you can only, when you are in your God-given straits, you can only do what you do the way that you do it, right? And there's nobody, you're a thumbprint. There's nobody who can do exactly what you do. And so don't neglect reflecting on these key areas to assess, where am I at with my nutrition, and where am I at with my exercise, where am I at with my mindset, and how frequently am I plugging in reset and rest into my days, not just a day a week, but like literally what part of every day is there a reset and rest time frame for me. And when you assess where you're at, then it gives you opportunity to not lose sight of the track that you're on, to be able to have the momentum you want, or to stay in the momentum you're in. When we operate at our peak, it really does make the impossible become the inevitable. So I challenge you to dig deep and be real about why you want to change, because when your mindset is in the right place, your actions will absolutely follow. And if anything, I hope that our time was a reminder that in your exponential success in your health, that all these health habits, that you can do meaningful work, you can do things that feel fulfilling, and you serve in meaningful ways and grow meaningful connections when you're in a really good and healthy place. So I want to thank you for your time, and I also want to invite you to join the KW Wellness community if you are not already. And if you enjoyed this presentation, I invite you to join me. I do monthly calls. They are usually posted on the KW Wellness page, usually around muscle building. We do it about stress management. So I would love to have you on there. We focus on calls altogether on the wellness page around the 7 pillars, which is mindset, your mental health, physical, emotional, social, spiritual, occupational, and environmental. Well, I'm happy to connect. If anybody has any questions, you want to reach out to me on Facebook or on the wellness page. We also have a KW Fit page that's under the wellness umbrella. So you can find all the wellness communities within the wellness connection on the wellness page. But if you are specifically interested in fitness, then the KW Fit page is a great place. People are posting their workouts, they're posting what's working for them, people who are getting back on track, people who had showing their before and afters, and it's just an encouraging space for you to come alongside us and have this fitness journey as yourself. Thank you all. I really appreciate your time. I'm here if you have any questions, reach out.